Hey, everybody. Welcome to this webcast. My name is Ben Gittenstein. I run product here at Qumulo, and I'm really excited to welcome you to a discussion of Qumulo as a service on Microsoft Azure. I am joined today by my friend and patriot in crime here, Keith Nargi. Keith, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Keith Nargi. I am Qumulo's field CTO for the Americas, and looking forward to having a conversation with you. And also joining us is Carl Rautenstrauch from Microsoft Azure. So we're going to hand it over to Carl to introduce himself.
Hey, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm a principal program manager with the Azure storage team. I sit inside of engineering and have no doubt that those two have committed many, many crimes.
Yes, but you have no proof, Carl, and that's the important distinction.
True.
Well, thanks, Carl, for being here. Thanks to Keith for being here. And most importantly, thanks to all of you Qumulo customers, Azure customers, or those who are somewhere in between for joining us today. We're gonna jump right in here, and I want to start by just making sure we're all on the same page about what Qumulo is, because really what we're going to be talking about a lot today is the marriage of Qumulo and Azure as a service. So let's start with making sure we're all on the same page about Qumulo. Qumulo really is a data platform that serves all of the life cycle of your data, from ingest through transformation, publishing, and archive from the same scalable multi-protocol namespace. We do that by delivering 7 unique data services in our product. Our product is Qumulo Core, that's our software. Qumulo Scale enables you to build big systems. Qumulo Perform enables you to reach the performance peaks that you need for your most demanding workflows. Qumulo Aware gives you rich real-time visibility into what's going on with your data and what's going on with your workflows. Qumulo Shift lets you move data to other systems. Qumulo Integrate lets you build robust pipelines using our API. Qumulo Protect keeps your data safe, both at the file system level and the underlying infrastructure. And then finally, Qumulo Secure keeps your data secure by preventing unauthorized access and making sure that only the people who have access to data have the rights to do so. So that's Qumulo Core and what we provide across the entire life cycle of your data. But now we want to talk about bringing Qumulo Core to Azure and really why we did that. So let's start with the problem. We're really interested in the notion and the problem that we see out there a lot in talking to customers, which is, hey, I've got large-scale on-premises file in my data center, and my organization has made a decision that Azure is the right place for our applications, for our long-term infrastructure strategy. Azure is going to be a key partner for how we scale our business, for how we innovate, for how we build new products and services. But boy, migration is hard. It is really hard to move data and workflows. And at the heart of that difficulty is really the problem of, what do I do with my data? Because really, like, the question is, it's one thing to move the application over. It's a whole other problem to bring over the data that makes that application work and makes that application valuable. Well, if there's no great options for moving that data over into a single scalable multi-protocol namespace, then you're left with some really, really difficult choices. You can rewrite your applications to work totally differently. You could split up your data into new silos. That's a really hard choice, and that's really difficult to manage. Or you can make really difficult decisions about, hey, boy, what's the future going to look like? And you can pre-provision a bunch of assets that you may not ever use or need. All of those are really difficult decisions and make it really hard to get going in Microsoft Azure. So that's really at the heart of why we built Qumulo as a service on Azure. We wanted to bring what we already do well, which is building single scalable multi-protocol namespaces, into the Azure family and deliver that as a simple and easy to use service. So Qumulo as a service on Azure is the industry's first petabyte-scale file data platform in the cloud, in particular in Azure. It scales well beyond 100 terabytes in a single namespace. It's an easy endpoint for migration. It can serve high performance needs for your hyperactive workloads, and it can do that at scale. And of course, we offer the same rich real-time analytics that we offer everywhere our product serves. We offer that in Azure. So how can you use that as a customer? How can this make your organization's life better? Well, the first thing you can do, most importantly, as I've been sort of droning on about, is you can migrate to Azure without refactoring your applications. So just get the data over, start getting the applications over, and get started. You can also start to build entirely new file-based applications and pipelines in Azure, and you can start to take advantage of the awesome and higher level services like data publishing, AI, machine learning that Azure offers, because your data is now resident in Azure. You can also, maybe one of the most important things is that you can simplify your pipelines. Now you don't have to have 15 different data silos, you can have one file data lake, and that makes your life easier just as a admin who has to manage all these systems and keep those workflows up and running all day. And finally, most importantly, because it's a service, you don't have to worry about infrastructure. Let us take care of that problem. Now, Keith is going to go into what that means, but as a value proposition, we were most interested in making your life easier and simpler. So Keith, why don't you tell us what this thing really is?
Sure. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of what we're actually doing here. So Qumulo has built for the past 9 years this Qumulo data platform. And this is really the house of all of your file data and really a platform that's just built to scale. But when you bring that to the cloud, you have to start thinking about what do you need to do as a customer and what do we as the service provider give you. So you're no longer going to have to worry about deploying and managing any of the software installations, the infrastructure, the add-on capacity. We're providing you with a very robust multi-protocol from an SMB and NFS perspective so that you can bring all of your files up, not have to bring them into like these little siloed areas that I have one file system over here, another file system over here. You're bringing everything up like you have it on-prem today and allowing the applications to come as they are versus having to rebuild them. No taking a file workload and changing it over to an object workload. The other big thing is on-prem workloads require infrastructure management, hardware, disk drive replacements when they fail, what happens when you lose a network interface, what happens when power goes out or you lose one phase of your power. All of that is now gone. And even more importantly, the bane of most administrators is upgrades, managing upgrades, putting change controls in, making sure that everything is done appropriately. All of that is no longer something that is a burden on users of this service. Qumulo takes all of that. We can scale this system into the petabyte range and take away all of the headaches, worrying about what happens to the underlying infrastructure, worrying about managing upgrades. All of that is now done by Qumulo. And this is something that your applications just connect to using the Qumulo service. And that, to us, is one of the most powerful benefits of what Qumulo as a service brings to our customers. And most importantly, it is a native service offering in the marketplace that you can just go right to the Azure Marketplace and you will find Qumulo as a service. And that's how you start down your journey with us. So what does this really mean? When you start looking at the landscape of file in the cloud, it's very much similar to what the landscape on-prem looks like, where there's very limited infrastructure components that can scale massively and do it in such a way that you get to easily do it without all of that overworking, all the headaches that go into massive scale. And reality of it is when you're buying stuff on-prem, you're buying it over a 3 to 5 year lifespan, and you're buying 2 petabytes, 3 petabytes, putting it on your data center floor, and you may only start using, half a petabyte the first year, 2 petabytes by the end of the second year, 3 petabytes, but you're buying it all up front. With Qumulo, you're buying that service, and then as the system gets more taxed and more applications get moved, you have the ability to scale that seamlessly, and you're getting to use and pay for only what you use at that time. You don't have to worry about, oh, I'm running low, I need to worry about making an order. The service does that for you. You go in, it's fully managed, you click a button, we add more capacity to you, and then as you start consuming that, you pay as you go. This is really the storage as a service, infrastructure as a service, and SaaS, software as a service, all packaged up into one very powerful offering. And the best part is you don't have to worry about the infrastructure anymore. You can now focus on the most important aspects of your business, which is your applications and the data, and not the infrastructure components. And that's really, the ability to scale and provide your applications what they need and focus on the business and not focus on being an IT infrastructure company. So what your subscription journey will actually look like. So today you're learning about Qumulo on this webinar. The next real big thing you have to do is go and subscribe. And this is a simple thing where you choose based on capacity and performance, and that's all done through the marketplace. Qumulo will provision your cluster for you, and then you get to start using it. It's very, very simple. It's very easy. And the best part about it is that you don't have to really do much more than go to the marketplace. Once you're up and running, now you can start talking about the workloads. What do I want to do? So we're going to walk through two of our common workloads that we see customers very interested in doing in the cloud. The first is really editorial or content creation. So COVID has really exacerbated the remote employee. I think most of us are either at home. Ben and I are actually in an office the first time I've seen him in 19 months. But but what we learned from the M&E world is that the editorial and content creation had always been done in these facilities, these locations like New York, London, Chicago, Montreal, Vancouver. And the talent pool was always having to be in those locations. COVID sent all those people home. And reality was they still had to do their jobs. Content still needed to be created. In most cases, it needed to be created faster and more robust because everybody was home watching television. And the entertainment industry really took hold of the remote employee like no other. And they started to expand that like 30-mile traditional radius that you go and recruit people from, and they made it a worldwide recruitment. And they started getting talent to create content and do editorial workloads that were spread out across the entire country and in some cases the globe. And how do you do that without having a centralized infrastructure anymore? You move it all to the cloud. You take your remote editors, you give them a virtual desktop, and you connect that desktop using PC over IP. And then you have these virtual editorial suites where you still have to ingest that content, the raw footage, from maybe an on-prem system up into the cloud. But now all of your editors, all of your content creators, all of your creative workloads are all being done in the cloud. And the really nice part about that is that your ability to share and collaborate with a worldwide editorial creative team just becomes exponentially faster and better. And you get to start doing this in the cloud with the power of Azure scalability. So starting to do rendering, transcoding, internal corporate videos for training and enablement for new employees that you're hiring on during COVID and they're not ever coming into the office. That was normally introductory. Now it's all being done with an in-house production or in-house, in quotes there, production studio. That's all being done in the cloud, delivered back, and then pushed out to a CDN. And that CDN can still be part of the Azure infrastructure. So everything you need to build, create, deliver, and finish is all part of that. And Qumulo, being this service, allows you to spin capacity, performance, and not have to worry about anything other than I need to make sure that my editorial workload is up and running and that there's a place that provides multi-protocol, high performance in the cloud that can scale to high levels of resolution storage. That's one of the major ones. The other big one that we're starting to see quite a bit is IoT sensor data, the automated driving. So think about, you have all of these vehicles with a bunch of sensors on them. They are gathering data, taking pictures, learning about braking habits. All of that is being gathered. And a lot of the time, 5G networks are unlocking the ability for these cars to write that data in real time up to a cloud, right? That cloud needs to gather that file data to be able to process, to learn, to teach a car to drive, how to react. All of that data now gets written right up to a Qumulo file system for simulation and training to occur. And the native training and machine learning algorithms are all in Azure, and they can be read directly from the file system that Qumulo provides. And then you can archive it out, you can bring it back down on-prem, or you can leave it in the cloud for long-term retention and potential relearning and retraining of vehicles over time. So these are some of the big things that Qumulo is solving in the cloud. And the real crux here is that this level of data gathering is just generating petabytes. This isn't one car. This is hundreds of cars driving hundreds of thousands of miles and, learning about, crossing a lane, driving straight, what happens when a person comes out. Like, it's all reactive. You have to gather thousands of miles of footage to teach a car to drive 1 mile. So think about that. 1 mile is thousands of hours of video capture of sensor data about braking habits. And that has to be gathered, trained, and stored because you're constantly teaching the car what it has to do. And Qumulo provides that very scalable system in the cloud for all these training algorithms.
I wanted to jump in here, Keith. It's one thing, as I'm watching you talk about this, I think it'd be interesting for you to compare these two use cases a little bit, because one is, they both seem to involve both human beings and machines touching the data. And I think that's a hallmark of the use cases that we serve. I mean, would you say that both in the M&E content creation use cases, you see both machines doing render and transcode, but also really high-end individuals doing editorial work?
Yep.
And you see a similar pattern in IoT and sensor data where you have both machines doing work in the simulation and transformation work, but then also data scientists doing work looking at that.
They're all very much the same. The pipeline that you're starting to see from the workloads is really ingestion of data and then computation. That ingestion of data in the M&E world is most likely somebody holding a video camera, and that camera has to be in a person's hand, and it gets written in. What happens from there is, a transcode to the right format or multiple formats for content delivery. But before you even do that, you have to do, editing, color correction, audio, fit and finish, polish, and then again, you have to take all of those different layers that you've added and make a single frame, condense it down, render it, and then submit it out. In the IoT and sensor world, the machines are actually the one gathering the data, and then you have human beings modeling that data and building some output that then ultimately goes back to a machine to be tested. And there's nothing better than being able to simulate all of that in a cloud where you can basically get endless compute and not have to worry about the limitations of your data center. Or, hey, I really need to get this result done in like 5 minutes. Time is no longer a constant when you're in the cloud, because you can just spin up as much compute as you need and make time a variable to get your computational analysis done, or test a training algorithm to see if it actually worked, and then go back. And honestly, it may sound like, well, yeah, that's great, but I have to pay for that. It's no different than paying for a training algorithm to run for 10 hours or 10 minutes. You're still paying the CPU usage. You're just paying for it at a shorter period of time versus a longer period of time.
And what's interesting as well, I would just call out, is that there's the cloud and then there's Azure. And one of the most powerful things about this partnership is that the Azure cloud is, arguably the world's most robust in size, scope, services, enterprise reach, enterprise readiness, all of that. And just as a product person, one of the reasons we chose to bring our first true end-to-end software service to a cloud, one of the reasons we chose to do that on Azure was because of the capabilities they offer, the higher level services they offer that make those workloads that Keith just described successful for customers. So
with that, let's actually hand it over to Carl to talk about this very powerful platform that the Qumulo software can run on.
Yeah, thank you guys, and a great segue. So I want to step back for one quick second and say that if we have folks on the call who are thinking, well, those IoT, ML use cases that aggregate data in the cloud, train the model, that doesn't apply to me. I'm in the healthcare industry. I'm in manufacturing. I'm in retail. I have to tell you that we've moved into that phase where machine learning and AI have gone beyond buzz and hand waving to real actionable, practical solutions. And I've seen that myself. I've worked with manufacturers who are using what a good friend of mine refers to as the universal sensor cameras that everybody has in every facility to feed and train their models that help them with product quality issues and safety issues, and then pushing those models back out to the edge. So absolutely everything that you just heard Keith and Ben discuss, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that across all industries, and just the benefits are there and real because of these canned models that you can train and adapt to your use cases. And really what I wanted to do here was not a commercial for Azure and the different storage platforms we have and our different services all up. I wanted to use this as an opportunity to say, why Qumulo? Why did we partner with Qumulo? You heard Ben do a fantastic job of explaining why they selected to build this platform on Azure. Now I want to tell you why we invested heavily and worked really closely with Qumulo to bring this to market. As you look across these disparate services that we have for storing data, you may think, well, I'm fine. I don't need Qumulo in Azure. I have all of these things I can use. And the reality is that for one reason or another, these are likely not going to meet your needs. If you're a Qumulo customer today, relying on that scale, relying on that awesome feature set, you have disks. We all know what those are, how to use them. I'm not going to belabor that. If you've got a VM, you're going to connect a disk to it. Data lake storage is a great example of Ben's point around not supporting traditional protocols. Data lake storage is an HDFS endpoint accessible platform. So for analytics, something like Databricks or a Hadoop deployment, a Cloudera deployment in Azure, bam, there you go, natural fit. But outside of that, you're not going to adapt your apps to leverage HDFS. And really, for the most part, that applies to blob storage as well. Blob storage is our object storage platform that can only be read from and written to with REST APIs. So if you are unwilling or unable to re-platform your app to take advantage of REST APIs and HTTPS-based access, you're not going to be able to use blob storage. And then finally, Azure Files and NetApp Files, yes, they are managed file offerings, but when you look at the feature set and the scale compared to what you get with Qumulo as a service on Azure, these are very, very different things. So that is why we partnered. Qumulo brings that no compromise, scale out, file protocol-based platform to Azure with advanced analytics and capabilities that you're really not going to find on the other platforms. And we're very excited about the potential here and about our relationship and the customer deployments we're going to see going forward. And I wanted to touch on two other quick points here. Loved Ben's first slide. I mean, anytime you are migrating to a public cloud and anytime you are moving from a disparate on-premises file platform to Azure, that migration process is a challenge. So if your starting point is Qumulo on-prem and your destination is Qumulo in Azure, easy. You have fantastic replication tools built in. Please, please use those. If you are coming from any other platform, and we see this very frequently with name your big vendor in the NAS space, trying to come to Azure, customers to bring their file sets to Azure, you need a tool that is built to do the job and can help you move those files in an efficient manner with no risk. And I see all the time customers attempt robocopy and rsync, and for small numbers of files, small data sets, great. But when you get into the hundreds of thousands, millions of files, massive, many, many, many terabytes or petabytes worth of capacity to move, you're not going to sleep at night for many, many months if you're trying the old school, do-it-yourself, roll your own tools. So we have partnered with several leading solution providers who have their platforms available in the Azure Marketplace, as Qumulo as a service is. Very easy to point-click deploy, very easy to purchase and acquire, leveraging your existing Azure commitment to consume. And you are off and running with multiple data engines, multi-threaded processes, a really nice reporting interface, and no sleepless nights because a job failed again, and you have to figure out where it failed and begin your multi-threaded copies, God forbid. So great platforms here. These are not the only 4 that you can use, but these are 4 that are available in the marketplace and can help make your move to Qumulo and Azure drastically simpler. Guys, I'm going to hand it back for the next fun and exciting part.
So we talked about your journey. So what does that actually look like? How do we get started with Qumulo? So like I said, this is a very simple endeavor to go into Qumulo as a service running in Azure. You do all of this through the marketplace. All you need as a customer is your tenant ID. You go into the Qumulo file system on Azure, and you use your customer tenant ID. It activates your subscription directly in the marketplace. You'll get a nice email from the Azure Marketplace telling you that your Qumulo file system on Azure is up and running. You can do this as a free POC to start and then roll right into it. But this notification says your subscription is active after just one step in the marketplace. On the back end, Qumulo will build this out, and what we will need is to do a VNet peering from your subscription to our subscription so that you now have access from your subscription to the Qumulo subscription where we're housing your Qumulo cluster for you. Simple step within your resource group. And once you do that, you are now up and running, cluster is available to start using, and away you go. And that really is it. It doesn't get any easier to bring a subscription service up in a major cloud like Azure than that. So with that, we'd like to thank you all for your time and start with some Q&A.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks Carl. Thanks Keith for a great conversation. I love working with you guys. So this has been great. I'm going to start with a couple of questions that we got ahead of time. And then actually there's one that landed even early before we even had started. Justin dropped in a question. We'll be handing out Qumulo shirts. I really need one. The short answer is, Justin, I think we will be finding you a Qumulo shirt. So hang on, or a Qumulo plushie. So hang tight and we'll get in touch with you afterwards. If not, reach out to your Qumulo rep and we'll make sure that you get what you need. We don't want anybody who wants Qumulo swag not to have it. So it's on our way. But we did get a couple of questions ahead of time that I wanted to start with. The first one goes to my buddy Keith here, which is from a customer who asked, quote, I have 800 terabytes of on-premises data that uses SMB and NFS. Can Qumulo as a service in Azure support that scale and workflow?
And the answer there is absolutely. One of the main reasons why we are building this service in Azure is there are a number of on-prem customers out there that have, systems like Isilon that have 800, 1 petabyte, 2 petabyte, 10 petabyte file system, and they want to go to the cloud, but there is no cloud offering that supports multi-protocol massive scale. And Qumulo has been displacing those footprints on-prem and now in the cloud for the entire tenure of our company. I would say about 90% of our current customer base is really an Isilon legacy scale-out multi-petabyte system that we have since replaced.
So short answer to that customer is yes. And if you'd like to find out more, reach out to us.
Yeah.
So Carl, I had a question that really should go to you, which is from another customer that said, I have an Azure commitment to consume, and are those dollars and resources eligible to be spent on Qumulo as a service in Azure?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben, and that's one that we receive really frequently as we rolled out the what we refer to as Azure Benefit Eligible program. So for any solution that you see in the marketplace, and Qumulo is absolutely one of these solutions that has an Azure Benefit Eligible badge on the product page, you can use your commitment to consume to acquire that solution. And for anybody who has to go to procurement and have new contracts written up and go through that nightmarish hellscape like I have in my past, you get to just bypass the queue, and you're jumping over the turnstile, and you're able to take advantage of that relationship and agreement you have with Microsoft to acquire Qumulo as a service. So low friction, no heartache, no Tums needed after a conversation with your folks in procurement. So absolutely great news all around there.
Great. Excellent. I think now would be a good time. If you have any other Q&As you want to drop into the chat, now would be a great time to do it. So let's wait just a minute and see if folks have any other real-time Q&As aside from the ones we got ahead of time. Okay. I'm not seeing any in the chat right now. And if that's true, then I think we can go ahead and give people their time back and move on with the rest of all of our exciting days. So with that, I think I'll call an end to this webinar. Carl, thank you again for the partnership and for working together. Keith, as always, great to be with you. Interesting to be sitting next to you for the first time in 19 months.
It is.
I'd forgotten what you smell like. Just kidding. But so it's great to be with you guys. Everybody on the line, thanks for spending a little bit of time with us here at Qumulo and Azure. We're really excited about this partnership and really excited to get this service into your hands. If you'd like to try it, just reach out, give us a shout, and we'll get you set up real fast. So thanks, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Happy 4th, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.